Carly Reich was from Bristol Warren, was our member on the committee. I think I mentioned earlier she had a graduation commitment and could not be able to attend. But the commission chairman is here, Pauline Getzoyan. I would just point out that there are two bills in the legislature. House Bill 7114 by Mia Ackerman will be heard by the House Education Committee on Tuesday, and it addresses these specific issues involving public school students. The other one by Representative Kazarian was House Bill 8269, and it would provide an additional $30,000 in funding for the commission and its functions and responsibilities. They do outreach. I'm sure that they'll be more than happy to come to your school district or one of your schools to provide the same sort of overview that you're going to receive today. So without any further ado, Pauline.
I always have to bring these things down to my level. So thank you very much for having me. I'd also like to introduce my colleague, Ann Edges, who also happened to serve on a school committee previously, but I'll let her explain that herself. Before I get started with our presentation, just by a show of hands, how many of you knew before today that there was such a thing as the Rhode Island Holocaust and Genocide Education Commission? Ooh, that's awesome. Okay, that's fantastic. I'm so happy to hear that, because very often we're not sure if people even know we exist, let alone what we do. So we're here today to provide you sort of a little history of how we came to be, what we do, and the resources that we can provide to your different school districts, okay? So let's see. Ooh, I like that fancy thing. Okay. All right. I'm not used to having that. I'm used to having to press the button. So just to give you a little background about the way the legislation progressed, believe it or not, it's been 26 years since the very first legislation passed in the year 2000, and that one just established, required that curriculum be developed for the study of the Holocaust and genocides. And that was the only requirement of the year 2000 legislation, but it got the ball rolling, and that's how I became involved in genocide education. My background is as the descendant, the granddaughter of Armenian genocide survivors, and so it's personal to me. So for my work, is inspired by the survival of my grandparents, and in particular, my grandmother, who I had the longest, and whose story I'm very familiar with and share in schools. But in the year 2000, when that legislation passed, it was at the urging and support of, I think at that time he was a state senator, Aram Garabedian. And believe it or not, there was a huge outcry for that legislation simply because the Armenian genocide was mentioned. I'll tell you a little story. When they were hearing that, this bill in the hearing, we got word that there was going to be opposition to it because of the mention of the Armenian genocide, which you may or may not know continues to be denied by the present-day government of Turkey, and was perpetrated by the Ottoman Turkish government. So there was an entire onslaught of lobbyists who came into the State House hearing room to oppose the bill, just to develop a curriculum. And as that was happening, as they were expressing their disapproval and essentially denialist rhetoric was being used, our legislature, thankfully we have wonderful supporters in our General Assembly here in the state of Rhode Island, asked a simple question: where are you from? They asked, are you from Rhode Island? And I want to say at least 95% of the people who were there were not. They had been bussed in to lobby against a bill to create curriculum to teach about genocide. And just because it was to include the Armenian genocide, they opposed it. Well, our legislators said, you don't have a voice here, it's time for you to leave, and they overwhelmingly passed it. So we're very fortunate here in the state, but that's how it all began in the year 2000. Then in 2011, the Genocide Education in Secondary Schools law was passed, and that emphasized the need to adhere to making curriculum materials available. And again, it named the various genocides, the Holocaust, the Armenian, Cambodian, and Darfur, okay? So these laws, it was a progression that happened. After that, in 2016, this is the law that ultimately led to the creation of the commission. And that time it was Governor Gina Raimondo who passed now Rhode Island general laws, and you can see the chapter. I'll actually click on it so you can see it. And that requires that the Holocaust and genocides be taught in Rhode Island's secondary and high school, secondary schools, middle and high school, about the legislation. But essentially it says that over the course of students' secondary education, that they must receive at least a unit of instruction on Holocaust and genocides. And by the time they graduate, they need to have received this instruction, by the time they graduate high school. Our commission doesn't necessarily agree that one unit of instruction is enough. And what does a unit of instruction mean, right? What does that mean for teachers? What does that mean for compliance with the law? And our belief is that a unit of instruction is a complete unit, not just teaching Elie Wiesel's Night, not just teaching one little piece of information or reading about Anne Frank, but including more of the history, the background, analysis and critique that the students' critical thinking need to be used to understand why genocides happen in the world today. So this is a picture from the signing of the bill, and thought you'd find it kind of fun. I don't see Marty Cooper in this picture, but I'll talk about him in a minute. So then, in order to ensure that the legislation is being followed and that schools are actually including this instruction, in August of 2021, Governor Dan McKee signed legislation that was introduced by Senators, was it Senator Golden and Rep. Kazarian, to create the commission, which essentially was created in order to support the legislation. And these are photographs from the actual signing of the legislation. And also, I thought I'd introduce this here. And again, Anne is going to give you a little bit more information, not only about the law, but also about our roles and responsibilities and the standards. In 2023, you may or may not know, I'm assuming you know, that the social studies standards were updated and are expected to be fully implemented by this school year coming up, 2026-27. And those standards have been updated to reflect the inclusion of Holocaust and genocide studies. And it's pretty specific about when it should be taught in the secondary schools. Of course, there's leeway. A lot of teachers are able to incorporate it, whether it's during World War I studies, whether it's during World War II, human rights, immigration, whichever part of the curriculum they feel it's appropriate to include this instruction, they are able to do so. But the standards provide a framework from which the teachers can work. So when we were first established, by the way, before we even became a commission, we were a volunteer coalition. So it wasn't as though nothing happened from 2016 when the law passed until 2021. We worked as a volunteer coalition of people from all the different communities affected by genocide and vetted an entire body of educational resources that are now housed on the Rhode Island Department of Education website. In fact, Anne served on that subcommittee that vetted all of the materials that are on that that website. We are currently in the process of reviewing them and updating that because so much material keeps coming out. But the beauty of that is that teachers don't need to reinvent the wheel or even invent the wheel. All they have to do is go to those resources, by the way, which are free and readily downloadable, readily available, and easy for teachers to incorporate into their curricula. So our mission, though, as a commission, once we were established, we decided to actually name our mission, define it so that anybody who comes to our website can actually see, will see the mission, will be able to see the resources, have links that they can go to. And this was the mission that we came up with. I'll read it even though you can see it. Our mission is to empower educators and their school communities to integrate learning about the Holocaust and other genocides as integral parts of their school cultures and studies. This includes overseeing Holocaust and Genocide Awareness Month each April and providing resources and professional development for teachers to enable them to incorporate these topics into their curricula. So it's a pretty straightforward mission, and from our inception, official inception as a commission in 2021, that has been our goal, that they're available, that we have these programs available. And we've done this a variety of different ways. So, excuse me, before I get to that, I should tell you that our commission consists officially of 13 members, not including the partners with whom we work. 7 of those seats are appointed by the governor, and 6 of them represent, as you can see, a variety of educational institutions. And we even have the social studies coordinator at, I'm not sure of her official title, but and we'll say it, Geraldine Ducati is the RIDE representative on the commission. The people who you see on the left side of this list, myself included, are either educators and or retired educators and or descendants of genocide survivors, okay? So everybody has a background that is entirely appropriate for the commission, and they have to be approved by the governor, officially appointed to this commission. And on the right, we have principals, a principal, a superintendent, somebody from the American Federation of Teachers, somebody from National Education Association, of course, Carly from the school committees, and that's everybody, and RIDE, and the superintendent, right, and the superintendent. So we have representation from all of these different organizations, and what it does is it allows us to have a really all-encompassing view of both the challenges and the requirements that need to be upheld in our schools. So along with our members, we partner with a variety of organizations, and one of our greatest partners has been the Rhode Island Library Association. Along with that, the School Librarians of Rhode Island, the Sandra Bornstein Holocaust Education Center, the Genocide Education Project of Rhode Island, and the Armenian Historical Association of Rhode Island. All of these organizations regularly partner with us, whether it be attending our meetings, offering insight, inviting us to their organizations to do presentations, asking for guidance on materials that should be provided, offering us resources that can then be provided to teachers. So the partnerships are very, certainly both ways. We collaborate regularly with each other. In fact, the Sandra Bornstein Holocaust Education Center and the Armenian Historical Association of Rhode Island are extremely involved with this commission, as is the Center for Southeast Asians. I just realized I did not put them up there. That's because one of our commissioners is actually from the Center for Southeast Asians. Oh, it is? I didn't see it? Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay. I thought I was, inclusive. I don't want to forget anybody because honestly, the work with our partners has been really important for us to be successful in what we've accomplished. If you think about it, we've only been around, officially, we've been around as a commission for 5 years, right? We were signed into law, but it was at the end of 2021. A lot of paperwork, let's say paperwork, had to be accomplished on the state level before we could even hold our first meeting, because obviously they're open meetings and there are requirements, as you are all very well aware. I don't need to tell you any of you that. So we had to go through an entire process. So really, unofficially, but more practically, we've been doing our work for 4 years, for 4 full years as a commission. So in 2023, we held as a commission our first official event, and it was at the State House, in the State House Library. And it was to introduce us to the librarians, introduce us to our legislators as a full-bodied commission. And it was held on March 30th, 2023, and it was used as our first kickoff event for April Holocaust and Genocide Awareness Month. That was the very first event to commemorate that Awareness Month. And we had comments from Senators Joshua Miller and David Takoyan, who's now the Majority Whip, and Representatives Jennifer Boylan, who continues to introduce resolutions on our behalf, and Catherine Kazarian, who's now Majority Leader. Also at this event, we unveiled our first book list, recommended book list for Awareness Month, which has been updated annually. And now we're at the point where we feel we're going to make an all-encompassing book list that will be housed on our website in order to provide resources for teachers. And additionally, resolutions, this was the first time resolutions were read in the House and Senate designating April officially, annually, as Holocaust and Genocide Awareness Month here in the state of Rhode Island. And these are some photographs from that event, that very first event. And I just want to point out, top right picture is Marty Cooper. I don't know if any of you knew Marty. I know Tim knew Marty. But Marty was sort of our fearless leader from the beginning of the coalition until until the legislation in 2016 was passed. And thankfully, he was here for 2021 when we became an official commission. Sadly, a couple of years ago, in that same year, 2023, actually, in the summer, we lost Marty very unexpectedly and very suddenly. And that really was a very solemn time for our commission. I think Marty and all of us had worked together for many years to accomplish the goals that we've accomplished thus far. Speaking personally, I had been working with Marty for at least 10 years on Holocaust and Genocide education. We were very like-minded, and as all of us on the commission are. And his loss has been felt by all of us, and we honored him the very next year for Awareness Month, which I will show you. But I wanted to make sure and acknowledge Marty as sort of the driving force behind the work that we've done. These are photographs of a couple of the recommended book lists, and I wanted to show you how far we've come. So the one on the left is the very first one in 2023, which is an excellent book list, by the way, and that was shared at the State House Library, along with a display of many of these books for anybody who attended that event. And then on the right, our 2025 last year's book list, which, as you can see, we've evolved over time.
One thing to notice on the book list, it's separated for middle school and high school.
Yeah.
And it's just also for each of the genocide types of genocide, Rwanda, Armenia,
Holocaust, yeah.
There are 2 books at each level. So there's tons, for Holocaust, there's tons of literature out there. For some of the other genocide groups, it was much harder to find those books. So this is very helpful for teachers who want to. I was also a teacher as well as a school committee member. I did a unit on genocide, and I had broke the kids up into groups. So some did Armenia, some did Cambodia, some did Rwanda. And to be able to have books that have been vetted, that are age appropriate for those different. So we've got 3 or 4 of these lists we've done. For the Holocaust, I could go on for years and years adding books.
Yes.
For Rwanda, not so
Right.
we got hard and hard, so we have one combined list. But be assured that your teachers will be able to find books at the right level, both content and reading level.
Right.
Because obviously what you're going to have at a high school reading is going to be different than what you want in middle school reading. So the book lists are separated that way, but they are available. And
also, they, do you want a microphone? Do you want the handheld?
I think you can hear me, right?
Can you hear? Okay. Yes, exactly, teacher voice. Also, there continue to be new books written, right? So we always want to stay up with the newest, most age-appropriate books as we go along in this process. We don't want anything to remain stagnant as a commission. We want teachers to have new and I don't want to use the word exciting, but appropriate, because it's not, it's a tough subject to teach. Engaging, there you go, thank you. Engaging books to use in their classrooms. And obviously, this subject matter can be taught both in social studies, history classrooms, and also in ELA. So it's not strictly a social studies or history topic. It's also very appropriate to teach in ELA classrooms because the ELA teachers can use any of these books around which to create instruction, and actually many of these books have lesson plans that go along with them. So in 2023, as a commission, we created, developed, and approved official bylaws for the commission, which guide our work and keep us on track. And in 2023-24, we introduced our logo contest. This was fun. This was a lot of fun. Anne sort of took the lead on this and got the word out to all the schools that we were doing a logo contest for our commission. And we had many submissions for the logo contest, and it was really fun because at one of our commission meetings, they were all laid out anonymously, and we all went around and sort of voted for the logo that we thought was most appropriate. And the one that you see up there, and the one that was right on the very first slide, is the logo that actually won. And we announced the winner at our 2024 Awareness Month event, which was held at the Sandra Bornstein Holocaust Education Center, and it featured Dr. Michael Xiaros from Pilgrim High School, and he spoke about a very appropriate topic, AI and genocide denial. It was actually a very sobering presentation. And that's one that I recommend pretty much every school take advantage of, because he offers it for PD, and so teachers can see how AI can be used to make genocide denial, to continue genocide denial in a very, as I said, sobering way. And Amelia Wilson from the Warwick Area Career and Technical Center was the winner of the logo contest. In 2024, we created our website, which a little bit, that's the link to it, but it's rihgec.org. And through that, if I can later on, after I'm done talking while Ann is talking, I'll go back and hook up to the Wi-Fi here and see if I can get the website up there for you. But it was created in 2024, and it has continued to be updated and improved, and we're continuing to do that on a regular basis. And I just told you about the awareness event with Dr. X, who also, by the way, I think was just recognized as Warwick Teacher of the Year recently. I think that just happened. And at that same event, by the way, the Genocide Education Rhode Island branch recognized him as the Genocide Educator of the Year at that event as well. And in 2024, we came up with a list of professional development programs and public programs that would be available not only for schools, but also our public libraries. And I will say that the libraries thus far have been the organizations that have taken advantage of the programming. They've been extremely well attended, but the schools is another issue, and I'm going to let, Ann is going to address that shortly, actually. These are pictures from that 2024 April Awareness event, and you can see Dr. X doing his presentation, and that's also Amelia with Ann at that event. We thought it'd be fun to show you some pictures. I have to say, that's probably one of the hardest parts of being a commission, is making sure that we keep these pictures in some type of order so that we can go back and utilize them as needed and also have them as a record of the work that we're doing. Okay, this was a fantastic event. In 2025, all of them have been great, but this was extra special. In 2025, our Awareness Month event was the first one that we were able to open widely to schools and teachers and students. And that was thanks to a grant that Senator DeCoyan was a legislative grant that he was able to get for the Bornstein Center, because we can't, as a state commission, get any legislative grants. So he was able to secure that grant for the Bornstein Center, and the Bornstein Center then turned around and used it to provide busing grants for schools in order to have them attend this event. And it was a screening of the film One Life, featuring Anthony Hopkins in the lead role, and it was extremely impactful. At this event, we had a lot of people attend. We had Mayor Brett Smiley came by, former mayor, now head of the Rhode Island Foundation, David Cicilline came by, Senator DeCoyan was there, and we had about more than 400 students and teachers who attended this event and were extremely impacted by both the film and the fact that this event was being held by the commission. It was held at Bishop McVinney Auditorium, and they were absolutely fantastic to work with in terms of making the facility available to us and being able to screen the film. The film looked great up on the screen there. I will say their podium was about this high, and so that was hard for me, so I had to sort of step to the side, but other than that, it was great. From what we heard from teachers after the event, there was a lot of great discussion in their classrooms, some very deep, meaningful discussion about this man who's, his name escapes me right now. Nicholas Winton. Yes, Nicholas Winton. And he was British and was responsible single-handedly, really, with friends at saving about 600 children during the Holocaust. But at the end of this film, and I don't really want to ruin it for you, but you need to see the whole film to understand it, but I'm going to tell you this much, because I think this is what really got the kids and the teachers, was the entire audience was of people who were there for when Mr. Winton received an award. They were all directly related to, or those children of the people he had rescued, the entire audience. So I think they estimated thousands of people ultimately were, who were alive at that time, were directly related to the people who he rescued. And it was a very meaningful film. It is one we highly recommend it. You could have heard a pin drop, and we all know that's not the norm. So you could have heard a pin drop in that auditorium, and afterwards, the mood was solemn. And thoughtful, reflective, all of those adjectives to describe the way that the students and teachers were responded to the film. And that at that event, we actually honored Marty and sort of showed a plaque that we had created in his honor and memory, which is now displayed at the Bornstein Holocaust Education Center. These are photographs from that event, and you can see up here Anthony Hopkins as Sir Nicholas Winton, and the bottom right is the plaque that we unveiled in Marty's honor at that event. So ongoing, as I mentioned, there's an entire slew of educational resources available on the RIDE website under Holocaust and Genocide Education specifically. And by the way, on the RIDE website, when you go to that section, they are divided into the various genocides, okay? So there's Indigenous American, there's African American, there is Holocaust, Armenian Genocide, Cambodia. I think that's all the sections, right? And then there's general resources for all genocides, for that matter. But we are in the process of reviewing those resources. Anything that is outdated will be coming off of the website, and new, more engaging, appropriate current materials will be added to the website. So we're trying to make sure that these resources are always up to date for teachers and students. So over the course of this last year, at least 9 different programs were offered to schools and libraries about various genocides, pretty much all of the ones represented on our commission. So we have, somebody from Cambodia, we have somebody for the indigenous peoples, we have Armenian Holocaust, and then general information. Many of the programs actually feature people who are descendants of survivors, and this way, if they are brought to the schools for students, then students are able to interact with people who are descendants of survivors, and then we also are able to provide professional development training, teacher training, so that teachers know how to approach teaching this subject matter if they've never taught it before, the materials that are appropriate for them to use for the different age groups, and also the best ways to meet the standards for the state of Rhode Island. As I mentioned earlier, so far the libraries are the ones who've taken advantage, and Anne is going to address our need to be able to get into the schools to provide professional development for teachers, to provide teacher training. And this year, once again, we had all of our commissioners, most of our commissioners actually were able to go to the State House, and on the same day, on April 16th, Thursday, April 16th, both the House and the Senate passed resolutions, once again, recognizing April as Holocaust and Genocide Awareness Month. And we felt that it was important for us to be in the legislature again this year, given the state of things not only here in Rhode Island, but globally, and in particular with so many anti-Semitic incidents happening around the state, and just hateful practices that are happening around the state. So we felt it was important for our legislators to see that we are doing this work, and to restate the importance of it. And the people who introduced the resolutions did an excellent job of explaining why it's so important for April to be Holocaust and Genocide Awareness Month, and why we need to make sure that the subject matter is taught in the schools to meet the standards and to accomplish what the law set out to do. Okay. These are some photographs from that, the readings of the resolutions. By the way, what was really nice about this too was the overwhelming support from the legislature, from the General Assembly. We, in both the House and the Senate, received standing ovations on both sides. There was unanimous support for both resolutions, which was very gratifying, because very often the work that we do as a commission, that you do as school committees, that all of us do in education is done sort of quietly and without any type of acknowledgement. So it was very important, particularly for the newest members of the commission, to see the impact of the work that we're doing as a commission. So that was the House side, and this was the Senate side. Okay. All right, looking ahead, what do we want to do? So in the coming year, most importantly, we really want to get into the teacher, pre-teacher prep programs at the colleges. We think that that's a really good way to begin expressing the importance of Holocaust and genocide education, and also providing teacher training at that level before they even get into the classroom to help to reinforce the importance of this education. Additionally, we need to get into the schools. We need to get into and Anna's going to address this more. So that's really a primary goal for the coming year, and it has been, but we're having some difficulty with that. For understandable reasons. Believe me, we as a commission are fully cognizant of all of the demands on our teachers, our principals, our superintendents, our school committee members. We understand all of the pressures and that are on these, and our, obviously our teachers. Which is actually the primary reason why we want to get into the schools in order to provide the teacher training, to lighten the load, to make teaching this subject matter easier for our teachers, less stressful, align it to the standards, provide the materials for free so that teachers can include this subject matter in their curricula. Funding for the commission. So the commission has no money. When we were, this is a little bit of history too, when the law was passed in 2016, one of the reasons it was passed is because there was no funding associated with implementing the law. So it was easy to pass, right? So we can pass this legislation, you have to teach it, but we're not giving you any money, we're not doing anything to make it, this is typical, right? So, and we understood the reasons why, accepted it at that time, also accepted our creation as a commission without any funding. By the way, we thought, oh, we can get legislative grants or we can apply for grants. No, we can't. As a state commission, we cannot get, obviously, state money, because that doesn't make sense. And we're not a nonprofit. So we cannot, as a state commission, we're not a nonprofit designated as a nonprofit, so we cannot apply for grants through nonprofit status. So we are now in the process of trying to get funding. And as Tim mentioned earlier, there is House Bill 8269, which is being considered at the moment, which would appropriate $30,000 annually to the commission in order to do the work that we do and to provide even more programming, even more professional development for our teachers and students. And we are hopeful that we might be able to get, if not the full amount, at least a good chunk of it. Because we have some really exciting plans that we would like to implement, and we're not able to do that without any funding. With the funding, we want to have a statewide conference on genocide education. That would be both for the public and for teachers and students, would be, professional development training as well as informational, and provide resources, information, guidance, all of the everything that teachers and schools need in order to implement these studies in the classroom. So that's where we hope to be headed. This is where how far we've come in 5 short years, really 4 short years. And hopefully this provides you with even more information. While Ann provides you with even more information, I'm going to see if I can get us hooked up so I can at least show you the website, okay? And I'll go back to, I think that's it, yeah. Yeah, we'll leave that, okay. All right, thank you.
All right. A little taller, not much. First, I want to say thank you to all of you. I spent 8 years on the Gloucester and Foster Gloucester school committees, so I know how difficult your work is, and I want to applaud you for, it's a gorgeous day out, and you're here getting development, so I want to thank you for that. As I said, I spent 8 years. Raise your hand if you've been on the committee 8 or more years. God bless you. 8 years was about all I could take, so give yourselves a round of applause, all of you. So, a few things. I just want to reiterate about the law. There's a law. This is supposed to be happening in the schools. It's happening in some schools. It's not happening in others. So the first law, the 2016 law, says Holocaust and genocide curriculum should be starting in the 17-18 school year. So some of your districts have done that. Probably a lot of your districts haven't. In that part of that law, it says, and she didn't bring the law up, but I've got part of the wording, nothing herein shall require school districts to require Holocaust and genocide instruction in every year of middle school and high school, but the Holocaust and genocide education and instruction shall be utilized during appropriate times in middle school and or high school curriculum, as determined by the local authority. That's part of why we're here talking to you. And this is what I put in red. All students should have received instruction on genocide and Holocaust awareness materials by the time they graduate from high school. And I don't think that's happening across the state. And I also think, I mean, there may be like a mention of the Armenian genocide, you know, 1 paragraph in World War I. They may talk about the Holocaust during World War II, and they think genocide is all in the past. Genocides are happening right now. As I mentioned, Marty earlier started all this because he talked about bullying. Anytime you make another group less than you, that's why this is important. It's not just in the past, it's happening now. So then there was a law passed providing to make us a commission. Between the first law and the second, as Pauline mentioned, we developed a bunch of resources. They're on the RIDE website, but we weren't getting a lot of traction. So people pushed for a commission to push it. And so part of our mission, part of what was put into the law, provide curriculum support and professional development for Rhode Island educators. So obviously, we're providing some curriculum support. Our partners are absolutely amazing. The Bornstein Center has curriculum where you can do the Holocaust in 2 days or up to 4 weeks. There's a separate thing for middle school, a separate thing for high school. They provide all the materials, the books. Teachers just have to sign up for it. They also have a really cool program, and I was fortunate enough to work on it. They interviewed a bunch of Holocaust survivors or children of survivors in front of a green screen, and they have an overlay. They're holograms, so the kids really engaging. Like, I sat there and worked on the questions for each of them, and like, there's a lady standing on my desk talking about her experience as a child in Crystal Knot. So that's something really engaging for the children, and there's curriculum materials to go with those holograms. So there's material out there. Pauline has worked a lot with the Genocide Education Program. They've got all kinds of lesson plans that are available, again, for free, because we all know about unfunded mandates. There's all this material available for free that your students could have access to. We work with the Center for Southeast Asians. We have a wonderful woman on our commission who, when she tells the story of her family, it's very compelling. Anything where you can connect to Rhode Islanders, these holograms are all Rhode Island people. So it really makes it relevant. Like, they can again, I taught for 38 years. I taught both at Wheeler and at LaSalle. I taught the Holocaust to 7th and 8th graders at LaSalle. I could tell them all about it, but when we had a survivor come in, it made such an impact. And all of these organizations have people that will come in and speak to your students. Also, in terms of professional development, Geraldine Ducetti, who's the, I've got her title here, she is the Humanities and Social Studies Specialist at RIDE. She puts out a monthly newsletter, and in that she puts out professional development opportunities. There's actually one Monday. There's a thing about teaching difficult topics. It's a Zoom, and it focused on the on the Holocaust, and she did that workshop live for her school district, but now it's being done for statewide. So if your teachers are not, your social studies teachers are not getting the newsletter from the social studies specialist, they should be encouraged to sign up, because it's excellent. It gives, here are different opportunities, not just on Holocaust and genocide, but across the board. So that's what we're doing. Why are we here today? Why are we here? Because we need your help. So I went and I looked at the mission statement for this organization, and part of it says, well, you're supposed to be playing a leading part in shaping and advocating public education policy. That's why you're here. Then I went and looked at the law. Again, being on school committee, I knew this, general powers and duties, and I took it's 16-2-3, number 3, to provide for and assure the implementation of federal and state laws. That's your job. The regulation of the board of, so it goes on from there, but that's the main point. There is a law. You as the school committee members need to be working to be sure the laws are being followed. We don't expect you to get in and teach this. That's not your role. But your role is to ask your administration, whether it's your superintendent, assistant superintendent, curriculum director, whoever it is that's in charge of curriculum, you need to ask them, is this happening? So I suggest that you ask them to report to the school committee. You as a school committee member can say, could you please report to us on how we are implementing this law, Holocaust and genocide? So she worked all that into the new framework. So I went yesterday and was looking at the framework, and as it was being rolled out, she did several Zooms, and I attended a few where she explains it. So there is curriculum. It is in the new standards that are supposed to be starting this fall. Yeah, you're on the website for it. Yeah. Right, so it is part of the new standards, so there are materials out there, and I went and I got a piece of the introduction, and it says, while the Holocaust and genocide education specifies instruction in the middle and high schools, the other specific instruction is included throughout elementary and secondary. As required, this content is embedded throughout the Rhode Island social studies standards where appropriate through a multifaceted and comprehensive approach. These content areas are baked into the grade level and high school course topics, standards, and learning assessment objectives. So for all of those different laws, they work them into what is expected at the grade levels. I know some topics move from one grade to a different grade, which is why many districts were waiting to buy books. In addition, what I really respect about the social studies standards, they haven't picked, oh, we're going to use this series, we're going to use this publisher. She's going through a really great process of collecting high quality curriculum materials. And and teachers will have a little more flexibility, and believe me, as a teacher for years, and I wanted to teach in public school. There were no public school jobs when I started teaching, and then you kind of go down a path, and so I ended up in independent schools, but I did enjoy the respect that I had to make those decisions to teach what I was passionate about. So the social studies is giving the teachers a little more flexibility and finding materials that work for them. But they are being provided. There's going to be a whole list of materials that are connected, that are high quality. And then later on in sort of this description of the overall intro to the framework, the Holocaust examples of genocide and human rights appear in grade 7 and grade 8, and the civics, US History 1, and World History 2 high school courses. So this information is already embedded into the standards, but again, that doesn't mean it's going to be happening. And that's where we really want your support in asking whoever the curriculum person is for your district to have them report to you. We understand this is the law. How is it being implemented in our district? Thank you. Well, do you want to show? Yeah.
Website.
Right, and these are the ones we collected between when we were still a coalition.
Right, exactly. So those are the resources, and then I was also able to pull up, this is the law related to the commission and what the commission is supposed to do, and this is the law that talks about the requirement to teach Holocaust and genocide studies in the curriculum. So I wanted to make sure that you saw that. Also, this is our website. So we have our homepage here. We have a mailing list that you can sign up for to stay abreast of information that we come up with. There's professional development programs here that are listed, and these will be up updated. As you can see, Dr. X's on denialism and post-truth world. ChatGPT is just the beginning, and many more.
Can I just, at that presentation that Dr. X did, it was so frightening. This was two years ago.
Yes.
He had recorded just a 3-minute clip of his own voice, and he was able to show video of him denying the Armenian genocide. They were able to, ChatGPT is able to do that. You can't trust anything you see, anywhere. That was that was 2 years ago. I can't imagine now.
Yeah, right, and that was 2 years ago. Imagine how far we've come since then. Then we have our public program offerings. These are the ones that I mentioned to you we primarily have done in the libraries around the state. And these are some web resources that we have compiled as a commission, aside from the ones that are on the RIDE website, okay? So, as I said before, this continues to be updated. This is about and our contact information, along with our partnering organizations and links to those. So that's our website so far. Obviously, we have a lot of pictures we can include now, so we're going to sort of toss those into the mix to add some interest, and we're going to update the information. We've also decided that as we offer various programs around the state, as people are invited to speak, whether at the libraries or at schools, that we're going to put that up on the website as well, so that the general population is aware of what the commission members are doing at this point. So I wanted to just make sure and show that to you. Okay.
So if anyone has any questions, we're willing to answer them, but we also, yeah.
Can you send your PowerPoint to Tim so he can send it to us?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I can definitely do that. Also, by the way, as Ann was saying, we really want, we would appreciate actually your assistance in making sure that all of the schools in, all school districts in Rhode Island are teaching about Holocaust and genocide. But also, we know that there are professional development days, designated days for PD, and there's also designated days for shorter length PD, like an hour, department meetings, that sort of thing. We are so very flexible in going into the schools, providing professional development at wherever it needs to be provided and however. We're extremely flexible, we're very motivated, and we would really appreciate the assistance to get in to, whether it could even be a school committee meeting, but I think it's more important that we get, as Ann said, that we get into the curriculum directors and in with the department heads so that we can start to provide this training for the teachers and provide the resources for them. Any other questions? We are here to answer your questions.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day, and at least you're in a room where you get the sunlight.
Yes.
You're not like in a basement or something.
This is a great room for the meeting. I know. Hopefully you can get out and enjoy it. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you.